Indonesia is the largest archipelago in the world with 17,504 large islands and small islands, with an area of 1,916,862 square kilometers. Indonesia is located in the tropics and is at the convergence of three major active tectonic plates, namely the Eurasian Plate, the India-Australia Plate, and the Pacific Plate. As the consequence of the archipelago and located in the tropics, Indonesia in general has a tropical monsoon climate with high rainfall annually. And because it is on an active tectonic tract in the world, Indonesia has many volcanoes and is also an earthquake area with a very high frequency of events. Based on data from the National Disaster Management Agency (BNPB) in 2018, every year Indonesia experiences earthquakes as much as 6,000 times. With such conditions, Indonesia is a country that is vulnerable to meteorological and geological disasters. Floods in the rainy season, drought in the dry season, volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and tsunami waves always occur repeatedly. In terms of population, Indonesia is the fourth largest country in the world with a population of 265 million by 2018. Spread across various islands in 34 provinces. Java Island is the island with the highest population density. As a country located in the tropics, Indonesia has an extensive tropical rainforest. Global Forest Watch in 2018 reported that Indonesia has 84.7 million hectares of tropical rainforest and is the third largest country in the world after Brazil and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Indonesia has a high biodiversity. 10% of the world's flowering plant species are found in Indonesia. In addition, Indonesia also has 12% of mammals, 16% of reptile species, and 175 species of birds in the world. As reported by the Indonesian government to the Secretariat on Convention on Biological Diversity in 2016. Indonesian waters is one of the highest diversity of coral reefs in the world. Indonesia also has the largest mangrove forest in the world. About 23% of the world's mangrove forest is found in Indonesia. In general, mangroves are tropical and subtropical plant communities that grow in coastal areas, have roots in sediments that contain salinity, and are often inundated or grow in tidal areas. The term mangroves describes ecosystems and plant families that specifically adapt to the tidal environment. Mangrove plants have a special ability to adapt to extreme environmental conditions, such as inundated land, high salinity, and unstable soil conditions. With such environmental conditions, some types of mangroves develop mechanisms that allow them to actively evaporate salt from tissues, while others develop a respiratory root system to help obtain oxygen for the root system. In other cases, several types of mangroves develop the fruit that has germinated while still in the parent tree, viviparous such as Bruguera, Cereus, and Rhizophyra. Mangrove ecosystems have traditionally been used by the community for various purposes. Economically, mangroves and mangrove ecosystems provide benefits as follows: providing wood for building materials, fuel, boat making, providing food and drinks, providing natural coloring agents for clothing, providing feed for livestock, breeding grounds for various kinds of fish and other fishery products, serving as a tourism object. In addition to economic benefits, mangroves have important functions for environmental sustainability, including shelter and breeding place for various species of animals, including crustaceans, fish, reptiles, birds, and mammals. Source of germplasm, habitat of endangered animals, capturing sediments originating from the mainland, high capacity to absorb carbon, protect the land from abrasion, tidal waves until the tsunami. Based on research published on global ecology and biogeography in 2010, the area of mangrove forests in 2000 was estimated at 137 square kilometers or 13.7 million hectares. Indonesia has 3.1 million hectares of mangrove forest cover, or about 22.6% of the world's mangroves. Provinces that have the largest mangrove forests are Papua, around 1.6 million hectares, East Kalimantan covering 364,000 hectares, Riau covering 206,000 hectares, and the rest are scattered in various provinces. Mangrove ecosystems are areas that are rich in biodiversity, including various species of mangrove plants and their associations, various types of mammals, reptiles, birds, fish, and various types of crustaceans. As a breeding ground for fish and other marine biota, the mangrove ecosystem area is an area with high fishery potential.
Kami dari Planète Urgence dan Bioma dengan proyek Delta Mahakam Restoration, kita sudah memulai proyek di sini sekitar kurang lebih 2 tahun terakhir, dan ini menjadi tahun ketiga bagi kita. Kita fokus untuk bekerja di wilayah mangrove karena ekosistem ini sangat unik. Mangrove hanya ada di wilayah tropis, dan kemudian Indonesia salah satu negara yang ada di lintasan ekuator, dan sangat banyak sekali ekosistem mangrove di Indonesia. Sayangnya mangrove di sebagian besar tempat, tidak hanya di Indonesia, itu mengalami penurunan yang cukup tinggi, terdegradasi. Salah satunya akibat dari pembukaan tambak secara masif, terutama oleh kelompok-kelompok usaha, baik itu dari usaha skala besar maupun usaha skala kecil, yaitu masyarakat. Tidak mengherankan apabila hal ini terjadi karena mangrove sendiri merupakan ekosistem yang sangat kaya akan sumber daya yang bernilai ekonomi, sehingga kemudian ini menjadi incaran banyak pihak untuk mengeruk sebanyak mungkin manfaat dari mangrove. Hanya sayangnya aktivitas tersebut mengakibatkan penurunan ekosistem mangrove yang luar biasa di banyak tempat.
Almost all mangrove forest areas in Indonesia have decreased due to land changes for other uses. Fisheries, aquaculture activities contribute the biggest change, where a lot of mangrove forests are converted into ponds. One of the mangrove forest areas that has been converted into ponds for shrimp farming is the Mahakam Delta region in East Kalimantan province. The Mahakam Delta region has an area of 113,500 square kilometers. In the 1970s, this area was predominantly covered by mangrove forests with various species, but now it has experienced very drastic changes. Drastic changes occurred in the late 1980s to the 2000s. Dutruk et al. 2014 conducted research on mangroves in the Mahakam Delta, stating that in the 2000s, 80% of the Mahakam Delta area had been converted to shrimp ponds. Land clearing and mangrove forests into ponds that were carried out massively by the community did not produce sustainable results. Many ponds do not provide adequate result after being used for about 4 years because they have experienced a decrease in quality of soils and water. The Mahakam Delta and the Mahakam River Channel are areas used for various purposes. In the Mahakam Delta, which is rich in oil and natural gas, oil and gas mining activities have been carried out for decades starting in the 1970s. The Mahakam River Channel is also a major coal transportation traffic channel in East Kalimantan province. And there is no doubt that the activities of the fisheries sector have changed the landscape of the Mahakam Delta from being originally rich in mangrove vegetation to shrimp and fish ponds. The government, in the case through the Forest Management Unit of Pelayan Watershed and Mahakam Delta as the regional management authority, needs to make various efforts by involving various parties to carry out the restoration of Delta Mahakam. Mangrove planting activities in the Mahakam Delta have been carried out by the government involving private companies and communities, but the results are still not promising. Based on data from the Forest Management Unit of Pelayan Watershed and Mahakam Delta in 2017, the pond area in the Mahakam Delta occupy 54% of the total area, while the others are primary mangrove forest 0.34%, secondary mangrove forest 22.39%, type forest of other plants 14.98%, agricultural land and plantation 4.75%, settlements 0.11%, mining activities 0.05%, and swamps and water bodies 3.2%. Land that is controlled by the community and converted into pond land becomes homework for related parties to manage the Mahakam Delta with minimal impact on environmental damage. Aquaculture business activities combined with mangrove planting is an alternative solution. Mangrove ecosystem restoration cannot be done by only one party, but must be done in collaboration with various parties. In the case of Mahakam Delta, restoration of the mangrove ecosystem is not only about replanting lost mangroves, but it must pay attention to socio-economic factors, because in fact, this area is inhabited by communities spread across various villages. Planète Urgence has been implementing a mangrove ecosystem restoration program since 2017 in the southern part of the Mahakam Delta, specifically in Muara Pegah, Muara Ulu Kecil, and Muara Ulu Besar, sub-villages Muara Kembang Village, Muara Jawa District.
Since 2007, the Environment and Development Program of Planète Urgence provides a local and integrated answer to pressure on forest ecosystem. So this program strengthens livelihoods and resilience to communities particularly vulnerable to climate change, as it is the case in Cameroon, Indonesia and Madagascar, where the programs is implemented. So to answer efficiently to the climate change issue, Planète Urgence works with the local partners on 3 main lines. So the first one is awareness raising to inform people about the importance of forest in their daily life and to scale it up. The second one is reforestation. So the idea is to reforest at a big scale ecosystem and their values on life. And the last one is to work on sustainable economic development directly related to natural resources, as it is the case in Madagascar for wood, energy, and in Indonesia with sustainable aquaculture. And on its last objective, Planète Urgence mostly work on structuring and organizational aspects of producers and markets and commercialization.
Restoration of the mangrove ecosystem in the Mahakam Delta is carried out in collaboration with relevant parties by encouraging the participation of communities living in the area. Mangrove planting and economic improvement activities based on local potential are important to maintain a balance between environmental sustainability and people's daily lives.
Yayasan Bioma adalah sebuah organisasi non-pemerintah yang didirikan di Samarinda pada tahun 1998, di mana pada tahapan awal Yayasan Bioma bergerak lebih kepada kegiatan-kegiatan penelitian yang berhubungan dengan hutan dan masyarakat sekitar hutan. Visi dari Yayasan Bioma adalah keberlanjutan fungsi dan manfaat sumber daya alam, dengan misinya adalah meningkatkan kesadaran dan partisipasi masyarakat dalam upaya peningkatan perlindungan dan pemanfaatan sumber daya alam secara berkelanjutan. Kemudian juga kita bekerja sama dengan Planète Urgence sejak tahun 2017 untuk menginisiasi kegiatan rehabilitasi ekosistem mangrove di Delta Mahakam, yang kita fokuskan pada wilayah Kecamatan Muara Jawa, Kelurahan Muara Kembang, di mana ada tiga kegiatan utama yang kita lakukan. Yang pertama adalah peningkatan kesadaran masyarakat melalui aktivitas kegiatan kampanye dan lain sebagainya. Yang kedua adalah kegiatan rehabilitasi dengan melakukan kegiatan penanaman pada kawasan-kawasan yang kita anggap telah terdegradasi. Kegiatan yang ketiga adalah kegiatan pemberdayaan masyarakat, di mana kita ingin mencoba mendukung kegiatan ekonomi masyarakat yang tetap berwawasan lingkungan. Salah satu kegiatan yang kita lakukan adalah pembuatan demoplot tambak ramah lingkungan, di mana kita melibatkan masyarakat yang ada di sana. Kemudian juga kita melakukan kegiatan pengadaan rumpon yang kita sebar pada beberapa titik-titik sungai dan laut, dengan harapan ini akan menambah peningkatan masyarakat, khususnya dalam kegiatan usaha nelayan mereka.
Mangrove planting is carried out by the community with the following steps: identification of planting locations, at-risk locations such as riverbanks and coastal borders and within ponds, collecting the seeds, seedling in the nurseries, nurturing and maintaining the seedlings, planting in designated location, tree monitoring. To raise awareness of the importance of mangrove ecosystem, an environmental awareness campaign was carried out with targeted groups of school children, community members living in the area, and public in general, as was done on the commemoration of the International Mangrove Day. Local economic activities based on local potential include the provision of fishing gear, small-scale FAD making, food processing for women's groups, and environmentally friendly fish pond activities or known as sustainable aquaculture.
Saya pernah melakukan pelatihan di Bontang tentang manfaat dan kegunaan buah mangrove, yaitu yang dibuat sejenis sirup dan teh, serta hasil laut dan tambak, yaitu terbuat dari udang dan kepiting yang diolah menjadi abon kepiting serta kerupuk udang.
Saya selaku masyarakat Muara Ulu Kecil dan anggota penanaman mangrove di wilayah Muara Ulu Kecil. Kami dengan anggota ingin mencoba membuat rompon yang terbuat dari bahan-bahannya adalah bambu ataupun kayu. Dan untuk saat ini kami telah membuat berupa 4 unit rompon yang akan kami letakkan di wilayah tertentu, ya khususnya Muara Ulu Kecil dan Muara Ulu Besar. Yang harapan kami hingga ke depan mudah-mudahan bisa ikan-ikan bernaung di situ dan bisa untuk kita memancing atau berupa melempar jala. Harapan kami ke depannya selaku masyarakat setempat.
Kita kemudian melakukan kegiatan ini dengan cara memperbaiki budidaya mangrove di masyarakat, karena dengan cara seperti itulah maka restorasi yang dilakukan untuk ekosistem mangrove ini bisa berjalan dengan baik dan berkurang gangguan terhadap upaya-upaya restorasi yang sedang dijalankan. Nah, kenapa kita sebut ini sebagai sustainable aquaculture, sebagai budidaya mangrove yang tambak ramah lingkungan yang lestari? Karena selain kita membudidayakan komoditi-komoditi prioritas yang dikembangkan oleh masyarakat, kita juga mencoba untuk menghindari penggunaan bahan kimia, terus kemudian memperkaya ekosistem ini dengan vegetasi mangrove yang aslinya ada di wilayah sini. Lalu kemudian kita untuk menata pola produksinya sehingga kemudian produksi ini bisa berjalan secara berkelanjutan.
Mangrove ecosystem in the Mahakam Delta have experienced many changes with the opening of land for aquaculture ponds, especially starting in the 1990s. The extent of mangrove forests has been drastically reduced to shrimp and fish ponds due to economic reasons. The extensive aquaculture carried out did not produce sustainable results. Based on information obtained from pond farmers in the Mahakam Delta, fish and shrimp production tends to decrease from year to year. This might due to decreased water quality and the emergence of disease in shrimp. One of the efforts made to improve the function of mangrove ecosystem is to reforest on inactive ponds and planting a certain percentage of active ponds. Planting mangroves in an active pond in accordance with the principle of sustainable environmentally friendly ponds. In brief, sustainable aquaculture is defined as fisheries aquaculture businesses, including shrimp for commercial purposes, that provide social and economic benefits for local communities with positive impacts on the environment. In the area of mangrove ecosystems, sustainable aquaculture ponds are carried out by planting mangroves in ponds with a certain percentage. Mangrove trees in this pond will function to maintain the stability of temperature and water pH level, as a shelter for fish and shrimp, as a biofilter, as a source of feed, and as a source of nutrients. Sustainable aquaculture will guarantee the sustainability of production, the sustainability of social functions, and the social and economic sustainability of the community.
selain tambak ramah lingkungan, di sini juga disediakan sekolah lapan yang bekerja sama dengan Yayasan Bioma dan Planète Urgence. Semoga petambak-tambak yang lainnya di luar daripada Muara besar bisa datang di sini, bekerja sama meningkatkan hasil tambak tersebut.
Saya sudah 24 tahun saya tinggal di Muara mengerjakan petani tambak di Muara kecil. Sudah lama saya coba-coba menanami tanaman mangrove, ya agak cukup bagus. Dengan perkembangan air tambak itu ya agak jauh beda daripada dulu. Sekarang ini sudah bagus hasilnya, ya ada juga. Jadi saya mau melanjutkan lagi nih penanaman di dalam tambak ini tahun 2019 ini yang terakhir ini. Mudah-mudahan dia ke depannya lebih bagus lagi daripada yang sekarang.
Restoration of the mangrove ecosystem requires the support of various parties. This support includes funding, knowledge and technology support, human resource development, and support of binding policies and regulations. The awareness of people living in the area concerned is important because they are expected to be the main actors in mangrove ecosystem restoration.
Mudah-mudahan kedepannya masih berjalan dan juga bisa menambah ekonomi masyarakat dan memudahkan masyarakat istilahnya untuk beraktivitas selama ada kegiatan bioma ini bersama orang bioma, Yayasan Bioma dengan Planète Urgence.
Ya, setelah adanya PU dan kerjasama bioma ini, mangrove, tanaman mangrove-nya alhamdulillah penghasilannya banyak, lumayan bertambah, kepiting udah sehari-harinya bertambah Pak. Jadi harapannya ke depan lebih ditambah lagi mangrove-nya supaya masyarakat di sini merasa bertambah penghasilannya Pak.
We believe that humans and farmers need to live together at the same place. Here in the delta of Mahakam, the tension is between the human activity, mainly around aquaculture, and between the nature that is rich and that we need to protect. So we need to reconcile both of them, and at Planète Urgence we are trying to create sustainable aquaculture, integrating mangrove within the aquaponds. It will allow the farmers to earn their living, to earn even better their living thanks to better productivity of the ponds, and at the same time it will keep the barrier that we need for the population, and it will keep also a good ecosystem for the biodiversity. So mangrove is a magic tree and we need to protect them.
Mangrove ecosystems are unique ecosystems that provide many benefits for human life and for the environment. Indonesia should be grateful to have a mangrove ecosystem with an area of more than 20% of the world's mangroves. But the damage to the mangrove ecosystem that continues to this day is our common concern. It is our obligation to maintain the mangrove ecosystem that still exists and to enrich ecosystem by planting more mangroves to restore its function as guardians and protectors of human life and other creatures. We can all help efforts to improve the mangrove ecosystem, which is very rich in benefits. Cooperation from various parties is needed to carry out this noble activity.